How's it? I'm Alex McCauley.
And I'm Max Fosberg.
And this is Excuse the Intermission, a discussion show surrounding rules and consequences. A few recent releases caught our attention the last few weekends. Some of those films have played and performed quite well, while others have had mixed reactions from audiences and critics. Max and I will cover that, discuss some other movie news, and look forward to the rest of June on this episode, which gets underway on the other side of this break. All right, we're back, and we are recording on a special day here because of our schedules. We pushed back our regular recording date this past week, and we are now here on Sunday, the Father's Day of 2025, June 15th. So, Max, how are you doing today? Have you talked to John Fosberg? Have you spoken to him? What's going on?
Yeah. I tried to FaceTime him this morning at a reasonable hour. Of course, didn't get a pickup, so I sent him a video recording of saying Happy Father's Day. And
who's that more for? Is that more for you or for him, or is he like
it's for my face? Well, yeah. I mean, right? I haven't seen his face. First off, I haven't seen him since April.
Okay.
And so he hasn't seen me either. We text quite a bit, but I think it was I was hoping I was going to get a video response back, which I did not. I got a thanks for the video, Max text in the family thread, not even in our own personal thread. So, it's all right. We're going through some things with our dads.
Do better, John.
Yeah, which is funny too, because 2 days earlier on Friday, I texted him and I was like, "Hey, what are you doing this weekend? I'm going to call you on Sunday, so please don't ignore it." And lo and behold, but he's I'm sure he's living his best life. I hope he's scooting around today. I don't know if it's sunny up there, but
we have a beautiful day here in the Northwest.
Yeah,
it's like 75 and sunny, so
nice.
Good scooter weather.
And I'm glad we're doing this on Father's Day because we are pod fathers. We are fathers of this pod. But did you get to see Ron today?
I did get to see my father this morning. I do like that. We are the pod fathers. We're the pod fathers of the Chatter Network. And of course of ETI. So yeah, Ron and I got to play some pickleball together this morning, which is a slight deviation from the normal, what has become the normal birthday and Father's Day outing of golf, of course. And so I was a little nervous, I'm not gonna lie, because the last time, the one and only time prior to this that my dad tried to come out and play pickleball with us, he nearly blew out his Achilles, and I'm not joking.
He's coming off an injury.
So he had recently been doing physical therapy for that injury finally, because he tried to just let it heal on its own, which he could never just get it back to 100%. He says he's at about 90 right now, but now that he's in PT for his heel, they actually have him doing pickleball like movements and even holding a paddle and kind of doing like bends and squats and reaches, because they asked him, well, how did you injure this? And he said, by playing pickleball. And I said, okay, well, let's try to replicate those same movements while you're rehabbing,
faster,
rebuild stronger. And so he came out today and played 3 solid games, took breaks when he needed to, never redlined, never took it too far, which I was really proud of him for. He's a former tennis player and a pretty high level tennis player. So it's hard for him, I know, to hold back when he's out there. He's got to work on his third shot drives. He should actually try to drop because he doesn't have the drive yet.
I heard the drop shot is becoming extinct.
In 2025, not that I'm some elder statesman of pickleball, but it's a different game already. In 2025, the finesse is fleeting fast.
All power.
Not as many drops, not as many dinks. But what is good about that is that if you have over the last couple of years gotten into pickleball and worked on your dinking and worked on your drop shots, people don't expect them now because they just expect you to drive and bang it as hard as you can at the net. So there is something to say about still having a soft game. But no, we had a lot of fun, played with some family friends, got some food afterwards. And yeah, now I'm back home. It's 2:00 and we're locked in, ready to pod.
Yeah, and a little programming note for us. And a little news for me. I am starting as a office PA on my first feature. I start tomorrow. Very excited.
This is so cool.
It's my first paid gig in California. It's my first feature. It's an indie film. Really tight knit crew. I'm very excited to be a part of it. Lots of different locations. So going forward, at least for the next like 4.5 weeks, Sundays might become our new recording day. We're going to kind of feel it out. I was looking at I did get the schedule and looking ahead, and most days are 12-hour days on Tuesdays. So we will be probably recording mostly on Sunday, which is cool because we're going to be right on like whatever is newly released, which is really exciting. And it gives me time we'll record on a Sunday and then possibly even release on a Sunday on that same Sunday. So, very excited about that. I'm in charge of the call sheets each day.
I was gonna say, who does Max Fosberg need to be on this set?
Yeah, I'm in the AD department, and I actually just had a meeting with the first AD and the second AD, and we just kind of went over call sheet, showed them the format I use, and it got approved, and a couple things I need to polish up on, but yeah, it's really while we're on set, I'll probably be doing a bunch of different jobs, but each night before 8 p.m. call sheet for the next day needs to go out. So I feel like you would love putting together call sheets. It's very like
spreadsheets.
Yeah, it's spreadsheets. It's organizing. It's kind of a puzzle in text form, putting it together, and once it's complete, it's very, very satisfying.
I love that. So do you have to then, are you keeping an eye on the clock while on set and making sure things are moving?
Yeah, actually I had that conversation today with the first AD where he was like, we need to make sure we're making our days. Cause like even tomorrow, right? On the first day we're shooting, I think it's 6 and like 1/4 of pages of script. And we've got, 8 hours or maybe 12 hours to do it. So yeah, he's like, and he's never worked with this director, so we don't really know the director's process or anything, which will be fun to learn on the go. But he's like, you need to just, wherever we're at in time, just give me a time check every once in a while. And so I know to push the director, to get the shot and get the takes done. So yeah, it's gonna be interesting. I can't wait. We're gonna be shooting in a prison one week, which is wild, and gonna be very fun.
So okay, I mean, I feel like I'm ready to go full like post production, like you just wrapped interview here and ask you millions of questions. But I'll wait because I can't wait to hear more, and we can chat about it as you go. If there is no sort of embargo or anything that you
I haven't signed an NDA yet, so
okay, cool. Well, I'll tell you what, whatever this feature is going to end up being, it's going to get a lot of free pub here on
that's very true
on ETI.
Yep.
Okay, so since it's been about 10 days since our last recording, we do have 2 weekends worth of films here to talk about. The big one from 2 weekends ago, really 2 big ones from 2 weekends ago, that we want to touch on are The Phoenician Scheme, the new film by Wes Anderson, and Ballerina. I know there's another one, Max, that I can't wait to hear you talk about because it might be your favorite out of those 3 films and one of your favorite of the year. But let's start with The Phoenician Scheme from Wes Anderson, a movie that it's tough to say where his films live right now in the public consciousness. Like we saw this with Asteroid City just a few years ago. It feels like a big deal when they come out, but then there's almost no shelf life to the film. So what did you think of The Phoenician Scheme, and what do you think of where Wes is in his career right now in general, based off what you've seen out of this most recent film?
So I've been, I think, as listeners will know to the show, I've been a huge Wes fan for a very long time.
Mhm.
I'm a constant Wes defender. I think when we did Asteroid City, I enjoyed that movie more than maybe you did.
Mhm.
I will say Phoenician Scheme, for the first time, I felt some fatigue.
Mm.
And you got to see this, right?
I have seen this, yes.
Yeah, and even though there are some new things he's trying here, particularly the violence
Mhm.
depicted in
Mhm.
this film, even though it's very cartoony, but there's still like the film opens with a half of a top half of a body blowing up,
Mhm.
and there's blood, and so that's something kind of new, but man, I am starting to feel like this dollhouse, and not only the design, because I think the design is cool, but like even it's just the performance style of
Yes.
the
That
actors.
Yep, that's my biggest thing.
It's so emotionless, and it it just I do feel it, I felt it when I was watching this film, where I was just, and there's a lot of plot and a lot of dialogue explaining the plot, and the way it's delivered, it's like you're constantly trying to keep up with what's going on, but then at the end it doesn't really matter what's going on because it's really supposed to be about this father-daughter relationship, but
Mhm.
like there's no connection to them because
Everything's so emotionless.
everything's so dry, yeah,
Yeah.
and so deadpan. Um, Michael Cera is one of the newcomers to the troupe this
Mhm.
time around, and I think he's pretty funny, but also like uh, kind of like overly goofy. And then there's like a turn in the middle for his character, and then he just like slides right into this performance style that everyone else is doing. Um, and yeah, I was kind of bored. I was kind of bored through this movie, which is too bad because I was very excited about it. I think Benicio is really great. Um, and but I'm starting to long for Royal Tenenbaums, Moonrise Kingdom, Life Aquatic, where there is design, the shoebox design in there, but there's also like more human
There's
emotional
real
moments.
heart for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah,
And the performances don't feel like they are just copy paste from like like a playbook. Like you go to OTAs at the Wes Anderson, summer camp, and then it's time for the preseason, and however it shakes out, you just end up like doing what you're supposed to do in a Wes Anderson movie. Like the playbook is the playbook at
yeah.
this point, and I do like the new wrinkles of some violence, some new people. Is this the first time Tom Hanks has been in a Wes
He was
Anderson film
he
too?
was in Asteroid City too.
Was it? That's right, he was an asteroid.
Yeah.
But so even him, because that's still he's relatively new to this world. It just feels like guys playing dress up, actors playing dress up in this world.
Yeah, I really didn't like the Tom Hanks, Bryan Cranston
No,
sequence,
no, and
and again, there is like, okay, we're gonna, again, something we haven't seen in a long time in a Wes Anderson movie where someone plays sports,
mhm,
which I think was done in Royal Tenenbaums as well. They play basketball, but like
yes,
there's Wes, you have a chance here to try like and show us something new, something different by shooting a basketball scene differently than how we expect you to shoot it, and you don't. And it's just kind of goofy and pointless.
yeah, and it's tough because there's a lot of I think that can go one of 2 ways, right? It can feel like like a fish out of water, and that's what we get in this situation. And then there's other times when you see directors who maybe aren't the biggest sports fans or don't make sports movies or whatever sort of subgenre you're dipping your toes into. And then you're right, it comes across as like really creative and inventive. I think that's
Mhm.
why people loved, say, like the tennis scenes and challengers so much,
Right,
because
right.
Luca's like, I never watched tennis. I find tennis boring, actually. So the way I'm going to shoot this is going to be to make it really exciting. And that's not to say that Wes has lost his fastball or anything, because again, I think the playbook is the playbook. So he's doing what he wants to do. And it's not like the actors are being asked to do anything unexpected of them. But we just kind of keep returning to these words like bored and fatigued, and we've seen this before, and the hope and the want for him and these films to again like show us something. It's getting kind of unbearable, honestly, for me. And I've it's been a long time coming with Wes. I think Asteroid City really cemented, even though I did find Asteroid City more funny than the Phoenician Scheme. I think that I'm just like, I'm kind of out. I'm out. And the next Wes Anderson movie that is released is going to be like a home release. Like wait till it's on demand. Yeah, wait till it's on demand for me.
And it's frustrating too, because I know he shows there's a glimpse. I feel like in this film where, and we're getting into spoiler territory for all these, when our main character, when Benicio Del Toro faces off against Benedict Cumberbatch in the movie, right? They have a combat at the end, and like for a split second, like the camera like goes like POV and then kind of like
it's moving. Yeah.
This, and I was like, oh, that's a new move.
Yes.
But like, let's do more of that. More of that experimental stuff in a Wes Anderson movie would be good. But yeah, man, it really is starting to feel like he's chasing Grand Budapest. Because Grand Budapest was the first one that was like completely designed in deadpan. And then since then, other than, Isle of Dogs, which is, the animated, all his live action stuff has been like trying to do Grand Budapest again.
Yeah. Just symmetrical blocking, production design, whip pans instead of actual camera movement. So
even Grand Budapest has more like even the actors are giving more emotion in that too, though.
Oh yeah,
so more natural performances. Where I don't know, it's too bad. I was disappointed.
All right, so then let's pivot to Ballerina. Ballerina is from director Len Wiseman, who has only directed a handful of films in his career, but movies that have actually been like sneaky good hits. He directed the first Underworld film, and so Ballerina is the latest chapter in the John Wick universe. It acts as a standalone film. However, it takes place during the events of John Wick 3, and we do get a cameo from Keanu Reeves playing John Wick, and he actually becomes more of a like supporting character during the third act of the film. Ana de Armas is the title character here. She is the ballerina, the female hit person, contract killer that we spend time with. And I don't know. I'll tell you what. For however long we want to go, I'm here to talk about Ballerina. I really liked this movie, so I have half a page of notes here to go off of. What did you think of this movie?
So I had a similar feeling to when I came out of Mission Impossible.
I'm so happy you brought that up, because I could not. I was like, I'm going to ask him to tell me just flat out what movie's better. Because just to paint the picture a little bit of context, you love Mission Impossible, you ride for Mission Impossible. I think you're definitely more attached to the Mission Impossible franchise than you are the John Wick movies.
Totally.
However, I went back and to read some of your receipts on Letterboxd.
John Wick 4 is
a 5-star movie for you.
Was an exciting film. I was very excited coming out of the theater.
You were.
Yes.
You knew I was going there.
I went back and looked myself as well. And I could have changed it. Could have. Anyways, I feel like the first 45 minutes of this movie is unneeded. If we start the movie where she is in the bathroom taking the picture of the person she just killed, and we go from there to the end, This movie fucking rocks and rips and is great. And it saves the Keanu cameo for him getting off the train like a Sergio Leone spaghetti western, which I think is what they wanted to do. But I've read a bunch of articles about how this movie they went back and reshot tons of stuff. They brought Chad Stahelski or Zelensky in, who has done all the other John Wick movies to reshoot some things, and action sequences in particular. I felt like Norman Reedus was really wasted. Like he is in the movie for 15 minutes running around with a shotgun, and then he's in a hospital bed for the rest of the movie, which you don't even like know until the very, very end.
Yeah.
Which I thought was a bad decision. And and listen, Norman Reedus has been around the block. If he's too old to do a bunch of stunts and stuff, get somebody else. Yeah.
Okay. Let me stop you and talk. Let's talk about the first 30 to 40 minutes of this film then, because I quite enjoyed the cold open, because I'm looking at this. I'm coming into this movie as someone who I feel like I had less and less interest in the John Wick movies as that franchise continued. I think number one is actually a really good, like mid-budget, almost quasi like independent action film that
it's very simple.
It's so simple, and so much has been written about it. So there's no need for me to, try to reinvent the wheel here and call that movie great. Like, I think that movie is unequivocally great and the best film in the franchise, including Ballerina. And then two's much of the same, which as a sequel goes, I don't think is the worst thing in the world. And then Parabellum, number 3, and then John Wick 4, especially, I felt was just like pretty nonsensical and overly long and really drawn out. And the rules of the world, of this world that we've grown to understand with, like the buying of equipment and the Continental and the rules and the consequences that come along with being a contract killer in this universe, kind of all just go out the window. So I quite enjoyed returning back to someone else's origin story within the same world. And I'm always going to, I don't know, I think that when the movie starts out and you actually show some emotional stakes and you understand like, okay, this is what's going to motivate this person going forward, is that Gabriel Byrne, who's just like having so much fun in this movie, is going to be the big bad, and he's responsible, and he will ultimately be the one that Ana de Armas needs to track down. I thought that was pretty effective. And, there's just like, there's great, that's a great set piece to open the film too. There's a great like raid on a house. And so I thought that
was pretty awesome when those frogmen just come out of the water with crossbows.
Absolutely. The crossbows are so cool.
That was really sick imagery.
And then from there you go right into, like 15 minutes into the movie, we're into the training montage. And who doesn't love like a training montage?
I wanted more though. Like
I hear that. I hear you on that, because we've seen the Angelica Houston character before, the person who trains these contract killers, these hitmen and hit women. And so I think part of it was the movie's definitely over reliant on your understanding and familiarity with the John Wick universe. And I think that's probably why they didn't show us too much more other than just her, maybe going from, if we're grading Ana de Armas's Ballerina character, Eve, like she's a C student. And then we see her kind of take it to the next level and become like top of her class, basically, during this training montage. And then that's when we get our first look at Keanu, at John Wick, as he's coming back in to basically whatever it is in number 3 to kind of be like excommunicado from the I forget what they're called, but basically from the school here. And so that part I felt was kind of unnecessary. And then of course we can have the whole debate, and I don't even really think it's a debate, because the answer is just don't show us John Wick in the trailer. And that's not like
Totally.
that's the movie's fault, but it's more the studio and the marketing department's fault to feel like they need to do that, because if they don't, and that's still in the movie, and then we don't have our first look at him here at like the 25-minute mark, and he just comes in at that third act, like you said, like the man dressed in black coming into town. Yep. I think that like, you know, my theater was already hyped, but I think they would have been like hooping and hollering when that happens. But then I totally agree with you. Like, I have written down here, like 30 minutes into this movie, we have our first nightclub set piece, and it's fucking awesome. Ana de Armas looks so good in this giant coat that she's in. Mm-hmm. And I'm taken right back to No Time to Die, where it's just like, show me one of the most beautiful women in movies right now, shooting people in the face and breaking their arms, hand-to-hand combat with this incredible cinematography, like all these great neon lights in the club. The John Wick movies are so funny. At least this movie actually had some people like running once gunfire happened, but like people are just, you know, like still dancing during these fights, which is kind of like a you know, a funny hallmark of the series, honestly. And then you go from there into what you mentioned, where now all of a sudden she is like earning.
It does like a time jump, right?
It does, like 2 months later, or 2 years later. I forget exactly what it is. One of those two. And then, she's getting 75 or $750,000 per kill. She's almost, you know, like making $1 million a kill. And then also too, like I love that scene that really starts the movie. I do agree that really is where like the movie takes itself to another level, and then it withstand, or like it can sustain that level, which is really good, because then it also introduces, while like furthering the plot and increasing the stakes, it's also introducing some comedy that I actually thought like worked really well. And those especially like 3 and 4, those John Wick movies took themselves so seriously. And so I really, really appreciated, like, there's a few things that I have written down here. Like, after she takes the picture of that kill, and then she's working her way from like a you know, a higher level of this building. She's at multiple floors up, and as she's like going through rooms, and she's just collecting knives that she's thrown into people.
That
and
was
I'm
so
like,
great.
This is hilarious. This is really, really funny. There's another moment where she's like beating somebody with a television remote, and the channels are changing behind her. Really funny and intentional. And then there's like another scene where there's a fight in a kitchen, and a scramble for a gun, and plates have broken and fallen everywhere, and it turns into like this, and it's like a Buster Keaton scene all of a sudden. And so I think that this movie, it's doing a lot really well, that surprised me for being a movie within the John Wick universe, where I do think it's still taking itself serious, but it definitely has a sense of humor.
Yeah, I totally agree. And even like the grenade play that happens when she's at like the hunting depot or whatever, where she's trying to buy guns. Like there's some great like grenade play or grenade comedy kills within that sequence that I was really into. I love the idea of like this snowy Alps town where everyone in the town is a killer. Yes. And like she enters this town, and then she has to fight everyone in the town. That's really fun stuff.
And also too, because it adds another layer again to this world that we're already familiar with, that I think helps us have just more buy-in than like seeing Bill Skarsgård sitting in a museum on some luxurious couch looking at pieces of art, and we're just like, okay, whatever. Like, I've seen a bad guy that looks like this in a million other movies. This is really exciting because, and no offense to your beloved 5-star John Wick 4, but like, this is really exciting because there's like another level to this movie that's like, I don't think it's trying to really talk about like human trafficking and kidnapping children and all these other things that we're sort of introduced to. But there is something to be said about like this town that is not like the whole Norman Reedus character that we find out, you know, a little bit about it during that character's introduction, and then a little bit more at the end, and then also through the Eve sister, or the Eve and her sister, their relationship is that, like, not only are there trained killers and hitmen and hit women living in this town, and those are the only people living there, but they're trying to like raise a family of killers. And if someone tries to leave, then we're kidnapping the kids and we're bringing them back. And the whole idea is to, you know, like grow this thing for generations and generations. So I thought that, you know, there's like a cult aspect to this film as well that was really interesting.
Yeah, I agree. I just think that I think if we're relying on people to know about the John Wick like universe and you know, recognize Angelica Houston and all that, like we
Lance
can
Reddick and Ian McShane.
Yeah, we can start. We don't have to have the first 45 minutes to explain kind of who the ballerinas are, the training sequence. We can start again in that bathroom scene, and right away it's just like, okay, this is an assassin. Obviously, she's really good at her job, and you know, and then you know, you get like a call from Angelica Houston later or whatever, and you know, telling her to, you know, you need to come in, stop being on the run. I also thought, you know, the whole reveal of her sister in this village, very quick, right? And even though like I kind of guessed when that woman first showed up on screen, I think it's when they're chasing Norman Reedus.
She's in the hotel lobby. She's in the Continental lobby.
Yeah. And but yeah, again, like she kind of, so once they get to the snowy Alps town, she like reveals like, I'm your sister, your long lost sister or whatever. And then all of a sudden
Gabriel Byrne says to her, it's your sister.
Yeah. And then it's just like she's dead right away. So like there's just no, I just felt like there was no you know, connection or stakes, or like, why am I supposed to care about that?
Yeah.
And that felt a little just like overwritten. Like, does she have to have a long lost sister? I mean, I guess because of the opening where the dad gets, you know, run up on or whatever, but I don't know. I did think it was just a little, just a bit overstuffed, but a lot of the action's really great. Again, the climax in the Alps, and John Wick coming in on a train, and then like kind of just being like this overseer while she's trying to carry out this mission. I thought that was a lot of fun. I thought that was it was really, really good stuff.
I also have to give a shout out to a couple other kills that happen once we are in the third act there, when she duct tapes the knife to the bottom of her pistol.
Yeah, that's
some great stuff. And then she also is wearing, two different things happen here involving some ice skates. At one point, at one point, she has two ice skates on her hands like gloves, and she's just swinging the blades, which is phenomenal stuff. And then at some point, the laces get tied together, and she is swinging around these ice skates like nunchucks.
Yeah, that's really
so cool. Like, you know, the John Wick movies have always been praised by people for their gunplay. I thought that this movie was so creative with its action set pieces in ways that the movie, for it to hit for someone like me that I think had less and less interest in the John Wick series, because those movies, they had their formula, they stuck to them, because for the most part, for audiences and for critics, that's what they wanted to see, I suppose. I loved the chances that this movie took, and maybe not so much, I shouldn't call them chances, but just the creativity in which this movie played with. I thought that was really good. There were a couple other just like great shots. Like, again, when she's in the nightclub, I thought that was awesome. And then there's a scene where she has a sword. She has, like, you know, she almost has her Kill Bill moment in this movie, and she's in a cabin. It's after her sister has been, she has been murdered, and the whole cabin is on fire, and she walks out of the darkness with this sword, and there's just flames behind her, and it's kind of slow motion, and she just starts chopping people down with this blade. And so I don't know, there's a lot of really fun stuff.
I will say no more flamethrower guns. We did that in John Wick 4. We've done that here. Let's stay away from that, because again, do you think if I had a flamethrower gun and you had a hose, do you think that works?
No, I think that's like I'll watch that on, Mythbusters or something like that. I don't need that in my action movies. Like, again, and I think that this is what happens. You just get into these trappings when it's like the 5th film in a franchise, and so much of I think what drives these creative decisions obviously are like what's worked in the past. And so for that when that happened again, I was like, oh boy, that's too bad. But I'm going to take with me, the duct tape, knife, pistol, the ice skate gloves, the collecting of the knives, the TV remote, all those really fun things, that the grenade kills obviously during that set piece there in the second act. And so there's enough for, I mean, this movie, I'll say this movie really, I was really surprised at how much I like this movie. Because for not being the world's biggest John Wick fan, I had moderate expectations that I might like it more just because of Ana de Armas. But I also didn't think that I would like be willing to recommend this movie to some people, or even anticipating like the Blu-ray release. But I'm there now. Like, I will definitely rewatch this movie and try to own it.
Yeah, it's interesting. It does seem like she has been chasing something like this since the No Time to Die sequence. I will say, if they do a sequel to this, let her be a bit more charming. Like we got through the revenge kind of like goth, like tattoo my back, with a fallen angel thing. Now, like, let her like play more in the next one.
Use like kind of become more of like the La Femme Nikita, like you're using every bit of your sexuality, of your charisma, of your charm. I do agree with that. I think that would be fun to see, because I mean, she's got it going on. Like, we're talking about, I love that she did this movie, and I know she had been tapped to do this movie for a really long time, but what an interesting turn for her, because we're talking about someone who is like, she's probably under 30. She's probably in her late 20s. I don't know for sure, but like, she's already been nominated for a Best Actress Academy Award for her work in Blonde. She's obviously extremely charming. But now we've seen her be able to, and she's proven it twice, once in No Time to Die. And that was like a teaser of what we ended up getting here in Ballerina, but like, she can also be an action superstar. So, really good for Ana de Armas. I think here, good showing in Ballerina.
Yeah. Please.
Okay. So what movie?
Superhero.
What just don't be a superhero. Yeah. So what movie do you like more, Ballerina or The Final Reckoning?
You know what? I probably smiled and fist pumped and had more fun at Ballerina.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Yep. And go check out our Mission Impossible episode for reasons why.
There's no AI in Ballerina, which is nice.
That is nice. Yeah. Hopefully that's not the sequel. Which one did you like more?
I like Ballerina more. And that's having liked both movies. I've yet to log Ballerina. I've yet to log Phoenician Scheme and Ballerina on my Letterboxd.
I think I rated them the same, but I definitely had more fun at Ballerina.
Yeah. I mean, Ballerina, and again, I haven't, I'm not cranking out the movies yet. Come summertime here, we're like, by the time this episode releases, I'll be like 2 or 3 school days away from summer, and I can't wait. So I haven't watched a ton of new releases yet this year, but Ballerina's probably in my top 10 right now.
Yeah. Well, I want to talk about a movie that is in my top 10.
I can't wait to hear you talk about this.
So it is called The Life of Chuck. It is from director Mike Flanagan. It is adapted from a novella by the Stephen King. It is an extremely earnest depiction of kind of the meaning of life. It's told in an interesting way in a film where like I've heard people ask if this even is a movie. It's told much like the book in 3 acts, but in reverse order, right? So you start out with Act 3 as your first act in the movie, and then Act 2, and then Act 1. So it works backwards from finish, or from end to start, but start to finish too. And I found this movie. The first, I think so when I say the first act, I mean the third act and the second act, the middle act, the first act and the middle act. I found really, really compelling, and just like good old school filmmaking. This is not a horror movie. It's not a horror story. It's told more kind of like in a Shawshank Redemption or Green Mile style of Stephen King's story. However,
that's of note, not only for the King aspect of it, but Flanagan, for the most part, has only been making horror or horror adjacent stuff for the last 5 or 6 years.
Totally. And he is, he's obviously a huge fan of King. He's done Dr. Sleep. I don't know if he had a hand in Pet Sematary, but yeah, and this being another adaptation of King. The first act especially is really, really good, because the other interesting thing about this movie is like there's not really a main character. These characters all seem to exist in the same like world or town, but you're kind of getting glimpses of different characters' lives in each act. It's funny that Tom Hiddleston is on the poster of this film, because it makes you think like, oh, this is a Tom Hiddleston movie, but really he's in like 20 minutes of it. Which is, kind of a spoiler, but, and he doesn't even really have a lot of lines, which is also really interesting. But he comes in and does like some great work, in that second act, in that middle act.
Tom Hiddleston is Loki, correct?
Correct.
So that's his like big thing for people.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. I believe that's the biggest thing. So it's nice to see him out of spandex, even though again he's not in the movie a lot.
But kind of something where you feel like he needed a movie like this. It's been a long time since like Crimson Peak. Yeah.
So that first act you're following, oh gosh, I can never pronounce this guy's name. Ejiofor.
Chilete.
Ejiofor and Karen Gillan are kind of the two main characters in that first act, and it's really compelling because, and I don't even know if I want to say, because it's going to be a spoiler.
No. Keep everything close to the vest.
Okay. If you can. Okay. Yeah. So something is going on in the world, and it's kind of a mystery, and like they never over explain what's happening. Matthew Lillard shows up for like 3 minutes in this movie, and like gives a great performance. Mark Hamill shows up in the third part of the movie, which is the first act, as like this alcoholic, grumpy grandpa. Mia, the woman who was in Ferris Bueller's Day Off, is also in this film, and she looks amazing. Mia Sara, who I haven't seen in a movie probably since Ferris Bueller's Day Off, and she's fantastic. And it's just, again, it's a very earnest movie. There's one moment that like feels very horror, which Mike Flanagan, plays really well and directs really well. But yeah, man, I had it was just a nice, sentimental, sweet movie, again, about the meaning of life. And then also like there are some like supernatural turns happening, and it makes you ask more questions as you leave the theater than answers your questions. And I really, really enjoy that. So I recommend going out and seeing this on a big screen. I got to see it on 35 millimeter, which I've heard that scan looks way better than what people are seeing on digital. Apparently on digital, it looks a little bit more like TV. as far as, when it's cleaned up, but like on film, it was beautiful. But yeah, I recommend it. And again, like, don't, yes, it's Mike Flanagan. Yes, it's Stephen King, but don't expect anything that they've done before this, right? Like, it is much more of a sweet movie. And makes you think about who we are in existence.
I love that. We need movies like this.
Totally. I think that was a huge thing too, right? Like, it is a breath of fresh air compared to a lot of the stuff we have been seeing this year, I feel like.
It's nice to have this movie in theaters too, because everything you just said, I hate that in 2025 you hear a movie like this described and you're like, wow, it sounds like a great HBO Max movie. Totally. Or sounds like a great Hulu movie. No, this is the kind of movie that can also play in theaters, for adults.
Yep. Totally. Yeah. So yeah, go see The Life of Chuck. I also am going to touch on this next movie very briefly, because I know, Alex, this is very anticipated on your list for the year. And I want to give you a chance to see it. It is The Materialists. Boy, that's a shitty image of that. And this is the new movie from Celine Song, who did Past Lives. We've got a love triangle. I will say this is, I feel like it's been marketed as a romantic comedy. When you go in, expect more drama than comedy. Okay. It's definitely lighter than Past Lives. It is much more Hollywood than Past Lives. But man, I will say, so we went and saw it last night with some friends, and we all came out of the theater, and they were like, "What'd you think?" And I said, "This is a perfectly good movie. It's perfect. Okay. It's just like I was never checked out. I was locked in. I still don't understand Dakota Johnson and her style of acting."
I'm sorry.
I know. Listen, she keeps getting jobs, so I always feel like at arm's length with her, because of her. Again, she's just got very dry. She would be great in a Wes Anderson movie. And there's some funny moments throughout. There's some sad moments throughout. There's Pedro Pascal is doing something very different than what we've ever seen him do. I don't know if it completely works.
Interesting.
The big thing I took out of this is, like, this version of Chris Evans is what we need. This is what I love, when Chris Evans is either a total dick and a villain, or when he is a hangdog loser. And yeah, I really enjoyed Chris Evans in this movie. It's photographed beautifully, really good music, so like some great needle drops, and the score is really well done. I don't know if it's as good as Past Lives. I don't think so. I haven't revisited that movie in a long time.
Past Lives is pretty phenomenal.
Yeah, I think that movie's a bit more polished.
Past Lives is like Past Lives. You could have made the argument. People did make the argument that it should have won Best Picture that year.
Right. So I don't think it's on that level, but I think, again, this is like a different type of movie than what we're getting in theaters recently. So go out.
So no sophomore slump from Celine is what you're saying.
I think
understanding that if we've set the bar at Best Picture,
Lives, then
Best
yes,
Picture nominee,
right?
If we've set the bar at Best Picture nominee, sure, it's a slump, but it's a perfectly fine movie. It's not like it sucked. Yeah,
it didn't suck, I don't think, but at the same time, it's not going to get any nominations, right?
Yeah,
I think. Okay. But yeah, I don't know. It's really interesting. It's very Jane Austen in its telling of this love story, where it kind of touches on some of those themes that Jane Austen really likes to touch on.
Is it trying to have, because what the impression that I got, now maybe this is going back to your disclaimer there at the beginning, is that expect more drama than comedy.
Mhm.
But I was under the impression, after just listening to a few Dakota Johnson interviews, that there was also there was a bit of an intent to try to recognize and make a rom-com that felt akin to something that we would have gotten in like 2000, 2001, 2002, like a Bridget Jones' Diary or How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days or The Wedding Planner. Like, now those movies, I think, operate on a lower level of prestige, but have a lot of enduring qualities to them, a lot of endearing and enduring qualities. Like, those movies are endlessly rewatchable. So I don't know. Would you say that Materialist feels like any of those?
Yeah, I think it does feel like like a mid but a little higher, a little better
A little
than
elevated.
than something like Bridget Jones' Diary. It's interesting. One of our friends that we saw it with last night, like, is convinced that this is a satire. And so I'll be really interested on your opinion, because I didn't read it that way. But I feel like I think it's possible to read it that way. And I haven't done more research on what Selena said. I know it's based on she spent time in New York as a matchmaker.
Yes.
Which is what Dakota Johnson's job is in this.
Like
in
a
this
high
film.
profile, high society matchmaker, right?
Yeah. And so I don't think it's trying to satirize, because there are there's a bunch of different like storylines going on throughout. There's like an A, a B, and a C. And I feel like if they were trying to make it satirical, one of the storylines just would not work and be a bad look. But
interesting. Okay.
Again, just really interested to hear your take. Again, I think I'm just allergic to Dakota Johnson, but she's out there doing the work. She gives great interviews. And as I said, Pedro is doing something different. And I don't know if it works all the time, but at least it's something different than what he has been doing. And we have officially begun the Pedro Pascal summer, because he's got editing next and then Fantastic Four.
Yeah.
So he is going to be everywhere. And I bet you this will be the most different than what he usually does, which is interesting. And then, I just, really interesting opening and ending to this movie as well. Cold open and cold ending. So I can't wait for you to see it, and we can talk about it more.
Yeah, I'm hoping that it has maybe a 2 or 3 week run, like a first run in a lot of theaters, because
our theater was packed.
Was
packed.
it? That's good.
Oh, yeah.
That's good. I think it did 12 million this past weekend. Box office numbers did just come in like an hour ago, so I can confirm that here in just a second. Yeah, it opened at 12 million, 15.5 million worldwide total. And that's playing on 2,800 screens. So not great, but not terrible, not nothing. Can't imagine that it costs too much to make, probably. So yeah, I'm hoping it gets a run here for a couple of weeks, because not this week, but the following week. I would love to check this one out when I have more time.
Yeah.
Okay. And then just something. And then now here's really like the big one. This has happened 2 weeks in a row. Well, really, I guess 2 out of the last 3 weeks, 2 out of the last 4 weeks. Where really the biggest movie of the weekend, that really dominated the box office and, took up multiple screens in theaters, was another animated family film. We saw this with Lilo and Stitch. That's what I was referring to a second ago. And now we're seeing it with the live action, if you will, adaptation of How to Train Your Dragon. This movie opened on 4,300 screens worldwide and did $83 million domestically, $114 million internationally. Good for a worldwide opening weekend of just under $200 million. So, I mean, whether it's a couple of years ago with the Super Mario movie or Minecraft earlier this year, the aforementioned Lilo and Stitch, and now How to Train Your Dragon, like we talk about this, it seems like every other month. Horror movies and family friendly films, something you can get everybody together and go see. These are keeping theaters open and in business.
Totally. And this run of live action animated remakes, just continues, and now it's not only Disney doing it, it's now DreamWorks, right? So they should put their mouth where their money is, or their money where their mouth is, and make a Shrek live action.
Well, and also, I mean, Warner Brothers too, because Warner Brothers was Minecraft, right?
Yeah.
So everyone's getting in on it. Like everyone wants to do horror. Everyone wants to make a family feature now, it seems.
I haven't seen this film, but I heard it's pretty much like a shot for shot remake. It's directed by the same guy who directed the original animated trilogy,
which are fantastic movies.
They're
like
really
honestly
good.
great movies.
Yeah.
So I don't know. We're going to have to dedicate, Max and I have been mulling this over. We're going to have to dedicate an entire episode to, we can't call it a phenomenon. These movies have always played well in theaters, but just like what is happening here recently, because between the handful of films we just mentioned, like we're talking about a couple $1 billion worth of worldwide box office between some of these films. So pretty remarkable stuff. I was talking to a few people at work this past week. Most of them teachers, so they understand because they have students in their class who talk about this, or they have families themselves. And when it's no surprise with the cost of everything going up, that like these movies are going to do well, because if you take a family of 4 to go see even a matinee, and it's near $20 a ticket, and there's 4 of you, and then if you buy concessions or whatever, not that that goes towards box office, but you get the picture, is that like this is what you do with your family over the weekend. Like this is your outing. If it is something like Father's Day, I'm sure that this movie is going to continue to play well into summer, because you have people who are now out of school. You have something like Father's Day. Pretty soon it's going to be 4th of July weekend. This movie, I'm sure, will still be in a lot of theaters. And so just giving people something to do, giving families something to do. There's something to be said for that, because these movies are crushing it at the box office this year.
Yeah, they really are. It'll be interesting to see what the next film is that they do, because again, I feel like Disney's getting kind of close. I mean, what other could they do? A Monsters Inc.? No, probably not. Could they do? I don't even Soul. No, they can't do Soul.
I do love the idea of a live action Shrek. A live action Shrek would be really interesting. And then to watch the progression of this, to see like where it goes when you're talking about live action remakes of animated classics, even though I think the first How to Train Your Dragon was like 2010, but whatever, we'll call it a classic. But then, you have Minecraft video game adaptation, Super Mario Brothers, or just the Super Mario movie, again, video game adaptation. So when the different studios and when more mature, and maybe like, just darker filmmakers do try to take on a similar story, or at least pull from a similar source material, like Alex Garland making a Skyrim film, or is it Skyrim or Elden Ring? I forget which one.
I think it's Elden Ring.
So like, again, we've seen video games that have more appeal to an older generation struggle at the box office. I think we saw this with like the World of Warcraft movie. There's hundreds of millions of people who still to this day play World of Warcraft, and no one cared about that movie.
They were too early.
I guess so. And so I don't
Dragon
know.
Ball Z.
We'll see what happens when different filmmakers and different target demographics start to get movies like this aimed towards them, and what the response is. Because the family stuff will always play, but will they try to capitalize? Will studios try to capitalize in other areas? We have is it Zach Krager, who's the filmmaker behind Barbarian, and he's rebooting the Resident Evil franchise. So
Right,
just
totally.
different things to keep our eye on, I think.
Well, and to be fair, Resident Evil, they did 9 movies?
I fucking love every single one of them. I don't know how many they did, but
I mean, they were very successful, right? They had a huge, and again, I think that plays into the horror, right? Evergreen genre. So it is going to be really interesting. Like, I wonder if anyone's ever going to make like a Fall Guys movie, right? And play. So I guess that could be more family friendly. I'm trying to think of like a PG-13 or like video. Assassin's Creed, they tried that, and that failed. So it's who knows? Maybe it is just you have to do it kid friendly.
Yeah. Okay, well, something that's not going to be kid friendly that we are really, really, really excited about next week is 28 years later, the long-awaited third installment into the Rage Virus story. And so we have Danny Boyle back at the helm directing this project. The film is written by Alex Garland, who helped him on the first film with the script. And so we can't wait to not only talk about that film, but Danny Boyle, a director who we've yet to have the opportunity to really explore his catalog. And so that'll be really fun to do, like a rankings episode or however we decide to do that. Someone who, I think we're both very familiar with, but until we have these moments, right? We talk about this time and time again, episode and episode again, like until we really have the time to sit down and start to compare a film like maybe Slumdog Millionaire versus Trainspotting. Like,
right.
You don't think about all the different things that someone has accomplished in their career. So it'll be really fun to do a Danny Boyle episode next week.
Yeah, I can't wait. Do we call this is this a legacy sequel because it's been 20 years?
It's honestly, it's in the title, right? If it's in the title, I think we have to abide by
it. It's going to be rip roaring. I can't wait to see this in theaters. And
this will be gnarly. This will be a lot of fun.
This movie was shot all on using iPhones, which is really interesting. So think about that while you're in the theater. I've seen like crazy pictures. I'll try and cue some up for next week of like these rigs they bought where they had like 40 phones on like a metal arm that they were like running around, and then they're capturing every angle, of whatever scene they're shooting on these phones. It's insane. So yeah, I can't wait to go back into this world. I don't really even remember 28. Was it 28 weeks later? Is the
28
sequel?
weeks later? Yeah.
I just remember it not being as monumental as 28 days. But
it's funny. It has a lot of the same energy that Final Destination 2 has, where I think the opening of 28 weeks later is so good and almost rivals anything that we get in the original. So because of that, I think people think of it very fondly. But the story is just a lot less interesting in the second one once you get past that opening set piece. Still a fine film though that is going to have a lot of people revisiting it here over the next week or so.
Yeah, and then we get to, if we're going to go deep into Boyle, we get to talk about the beach. We get to talk about sunshine.
Yeah.
I mean, he has made some really amazing movies that I think both of us, like the Venn diagram kind of unites on a lot of his films.
For sure.
So yeah, I'm very excited to take a look at that.
That'll be great. And then also coming up too, it's near the halfway mark of 2025 already. So after we do our just to kind of look ahead a few weeks here, after we do our 28 years / Danny Boyle episode, we will be doing a best of recap for the year so far. So a lot to look forward to here on the show. Until next time, please follow Excuse the Intermission on Instagram and the two of us on Letterboxd to track the movies that we are watching between shows. And we will talk to you next time on ETI, where movies still matter.